The Fairey Aviation Company Limited was a British aircraft manufacturer of the first half of the 20th century based in Hayes in Greater London and Heaton Chapel and RAF Ringway in Greater Manchester, notable for the design of a number of important military aircraft, including the Fairey III family, the Swordfish, Firefly, and Gannet. It had a strong presence in the supply of naval aircraft, and also built bombers for the RAF. After the Second World War, the company diversified into mechanical engineering and boat building. The aircraft manufacturing arm was taken over by Westland Aircraft in 1960. Following a series of mergers and takeovers, the principal successor businesses to the company now trade as FBM Babcock Marine Limited, Spectris plc, and WFEL, the latter manufacturing portable bridges. History. Founded in 1915 by Charles Richard Fairey and Belgian engineer Ernest Oscar Tips on the departure from Short Brothers, the company first built under license or as subcontractor aircraft designed by other manufacturers. The first aircraft designed and built by the Fairey Aviation specifically for use on an aircraft carrier was the Fairey Campaniera patrol seaplane, that first flew in February 1917. In the third report of the Royal Commission on Awards to Inventors, reported in Flight magazine of 15 January 1925, aviation figures prominently. C.R. Fairey and the Fairey Aviation Co. Limited was awarded £4,000 for work on the Hamble Baby seaplane. Fairey subsequently designed many aircraft types and, after World War II, missiles. The propeller division was located at the Hayes factory, and used designs based on the patents of Mr. Sylvanus Albert Reid. C.R. Fairey first encountered Reid's products in the mid-1920s when investigating the possibilities of the Curtiss D-12 engine. The Curtiss company also manufactured propellers designed by Reid. Another example of utilizing the talents of independent designers was the use of flaps, designed by Robert Talbot Youngman, which gave many of the Fairey aircraft and those of other manufacturers improved maneuverability. Aircraft production was primarily at the factory in North Hyde Road, Hayes, with flight testing carried out at North Old Aerodrome, Great West Aerodrome, Heston Airport, and finally at White Waltham, losing the Great West Aerodrome in 1944 by requisition by the Air Ministry to build London Heathrow Airport, with no compensation until 1964, caused a severe financial shock which may have hastened the company's end. One notable Hayes-built aircraft type during the late 1930s and World War II was the Swordfish. In 1957, the prototype Fairey Rotodyne vertical takeoff airliner was built at Hayes. After the merger with Westland Helicopters, helicopters such as the Westland Wasp were built at Hayes in the 1960s. Receipt of large UK military contracts in the mid-1930s necessitated acquisition of a large factory in Heaton Chapel, Stockport in 1935 that had been used as the National Aircraft Factory No. 2 during World War I. Flight test facilities were built at Manchester's Ringway Airport, the first phase opening in June 1937. A few Hendon monoplane bombers built at Stockport were flown from Manchester's Barton Aerodrome in 1936. Quantity production of battle light bombers at Stockport Ringway commenced in mid-1937. Large numbers of Fulmar fighters and Barracuda dive bombers followed during World War II. Fairey's also built 498 Bristol Beaufighter aircraft and over 660 Handley Page Halifax bombers in the northern facilities. Post-war, Firefly and Gannet naval aircraft were supplemented by subcontracts from de Havilland for Vampire and Venom jet fighters. Aircraft production and modification at Stockport and Ringway ceased in 1960. On 13 March 1959, Flight reported that Fairey Aviation Limited was to be reorganized following a proposal to concentrate aircraft and allied manufacturing activities in the United Kingdom into a new wholly owned subsidiary called the Fairey Aviation Co. Limited. The board felt that the change, taking effect on 1 April 1959, would enable the Rotodyne and other aircraft work to be handled by a concern concentrating on aviation. It is proposed to change the company's name to the Fairey Co. Limited, and to concentrate general engineering activities in the Stockport Aviation Co. Limited, whose name will become Fairey Engineering Limited. Under these changes, the Fairey Co. would become a holding company, with control of policy and finance throughout the group. The government in the late 1950s was determined to rationalise the UK's aero industry. The Ministry of Defence saw the future of helicopters as being best met by a single manufacturer. The merger of Fairey's aviation interests with Westland Aircraft took place in early 1960, shortly after Westland had acquired the Saunders Roe Group and the helicopter division of the Bristol Aeroplane Company. Westland Aircraft and the Fairey Company announced that they had reached agreement for the sale by Fairey to Westland of the issued share capital of Fairey Aviation, which operated all Fairey's UK aviation interests. Westland acquired all Fairey's aircraft manufacturing business and Fairey's 10% investment in the aircraft manufacturing company Fairey's workforce employed on manufacture of the outer wings of the Echo DH-121 was transferred to Westland. Fairey received 2 million Westland shares of 5 shillings each and a cash payment of approximately £1.4 million. The sale did not include Fairey Air surveys of the works at Heaton, which was home to the Weapon Division, which had a contract for research into advanced anti-tank missile systems. Fairey's remaining net worth was approximately £9.5 million. The collapse of the Fairey Group. In 1977, the Fairey Group went into receivership and was effectively nationalised by the government. Fairey went into liquidation when it introduced a Britain-Norman Islander production line into its subsidiary company, Avions Fairey, and overproduced the plane and subsequently faced redundancy payments of about £16 million in Belgium. The companies involved were as follows: Fairey Hydraulics Limited, Heaton, hydraulic power controls and filters for aircraft, sold in 1999 to a management buyout, name changed to Clavering Limited, bought in 2001 by Hamilton Standard. Fairey Engineering Limited, Stockport, General and Nuclear Engineering. Fairey Nuclear Limited, Heaton, Nuclear Components and Light Engineering. See also Dungeness Nuclear Power Station. Fairey Industrial Products Limited, Heaton, Management Company. Fairey Filtration Limited, Heaton, Industrial Filters. Fairey Winches Limited, Tavistock, Vehicle Overdrives, Winches and Hubs. Jurgensen Truss Gauge and Valve Co. Limited, Newcastle, Liquid Level Indicators. The Truss Engineering Co. Limited, Newcastle, Petrochemical Valves. Fairey Marine Holdings Limited, Hamble, Management Company. Fairey Marine Limited, East Coast, Ship and Boat Building. Fairey Exhibitions Limited, Hamble, Exhibition Stand Contractors. Fairey Marine Limited, Hamble, Boat Building and Repair. Fairey Yacht Harbours Limited, Hamble, Boat Handling, Berthing and Storage. Fairey Surveys Limited, Maidenhead, Aerial and Geophysical Survey and Mapping. Fairey Surveys Limited, Livingston, Aerial and Geophysical Survey and Mapping. Fairey Developments Limited, Heaton, Management Company. The Fairey Britain-Norman Aircraft Company was taken over by Pilatus, then a subsidiary of the Heaton Group in Switzerland. The rescue action was taken by the government under Section 8 of the Industry Act 1972, acquiring from the official receiver of the Fairey Company Limited the entire share capital for £201,163,000. The companies were managed by the National Enterprise Board. In 1980 the Fairey Group was purchased by Dalton and Amp Company Limited from the NEB. At the time, Pearson's interests in manufacturing were concentrated in the Dalton fine china business. The engineering interests were strengthened in 1980 by the acquisition of the high-technology businesses of Ferry, and the merging with Pearson's other engineering interests in 1982. However, these businesses were disposed of in 1986 as part of Pearson wishing to concentrate on core activities. Acquired by Williams Holdings, they became Williams Fairey Engineering Limited. Other parts of the combined Fairey Dalton Group saw a management buyout from Pearson, listing on the London Stock Exchange in 1988. During the 1990s this company concentrated on expanding its electronics business, acquiring a number of companies and disposing of the electrical insulator and hydraulic actuator businesses. In 1997, the company acquired Burnfield, of which Malvern Instruments was the most significant company. Servomex plc was acquired in 1999. In July 2000, the acquisition of the four instrumentation and controls businesses of Spectra SAG of Germany for £171 million was the largest ever made by the company, and marked an important strategic addition to the company's instrumentation and controls business. The reshaping of the group was marked with the change of name from Fairey Group to Spectras plc in May 2001. Subsidiary Companies. Avions Ferry. On 27 August 1931, Avions Fairey SA was founded by Fairey engineer Ernest Oscar Tips. Fairey Aircraft had impressed the Belgian authorities, and a subsidiary, Avions Fairey, was established to produce Fairey aircraft in Belgium. The company's staff left Belgium ahead of the German invasion of the Low Countries and returned after the war to build aircraft under license for the Belgian Air Force. With Fairey's financial troubles in the later 1970s, the Belgian government bought Avions Fairey to preserve its involvement in the Belgian F-16 project. See also Tipsy Nipper. Fairey Aviation of Canada. Formed in 1948, the Fairey Aviation Company of Canada Limited, and grew from a six-man operation to a major enterprise employing around 1,000 people. In March 1949, the company undertook repair and overhaul work for the Royal Canadian Navy on the Supermarine Seafire and the Fairey Firefly, and later the Hawker Sea Fury, and also undertook modification work on the Grumman Avenger. The Avro Lancaster Conversion program created the need for plant expansion. The Lancaster was followed in service by the Lockheed Neptune, and again the company undertook a share of the repair, overhaul and service of these aircraft. The company was engaged in the modification and overhaul of the McDonnell Banshee. Fairey of Canada also developed a component and instrument design and manufacturing organization. The company began manufacture of hydro-booster units which control flight surfaces hydraulically rather than manually. Other flight controls were designed and manufactured for the Avro CF-100. The Canadair Argus used Fairey-designed hydraulic actuators. The company also produced the Bear Trap helicopter ship handling system for the Royal Canadian Navy. In the early 1960s, the company undertook the conversion of the Martin Mars flying boats to water-bearing firefighters, drawing on the parent company's expertise in the design of hydraulic equipment led to local manufacture of the Fairey microfilter filter, which had applications in industries beyond aviation. Yet another Fairey designed and manufactured component was the safety ohmmeter. This instrument had many applications in missiles, mining, quarrying and similar fields. The company was appointed agent for RFD inflatable marine survival equipment. This agency included sales, service, inspection and repair of inflatable life rafts. The West Coast branch of the Fairey Aviation Company of Canada Limited was formed in 1955 at Sydney, Vancouver Island. The plant was located at Patricia Bay Airport. This facility handled mainly repair, overhaul and modification of military and civil aircraft, including the conversion of ex-military Avenger aircraft to commercial crop dusting roles. Additionally, the company diversified into designing and manufacturing items of hospital equipment. Following the failure of the UK parent, Fairey Canada was acquired by Imp Group International. Fairey Aviation Company of Australasia Pty Limited, the Australian branch of Fairey Aviation, was formed in 1948 as Fairey Clyde Aviation Co. Pty Limited, a joint venture with Clyde Engineering, and incorporated the aircraft division of CEC. The name was changed in November 1951. Based in Bankstown, Sydney, the factory overhauled aircraft for the Royal Australian Air Force and Royal Australian Navy, converted RAN Firefly as 5S to trainer Mark Chapter 5 standard. The Special Projects Division built the Jindovic, Meteor, and Canberra drones at Woomera Missile Test Range. Fairey Australasia was the first company to be established at the Weapons Research Establishment. This was in 1949, when the firm was involved in supporting research trials of the scale model of the Fairey vertical takeoff aircraft. Shortly afterwards, the company expanded to manufacture the RTV research rockets that were fired in Australia. For this developed a design and production factory that specialized in the manufacture of airborne and ground equipment for target aircraft and missile fields, including the Tonic towed target, which can be carried and streamed by a Jindovic 3A. In 1957, a miniature camera by the name of WRECISS was designed and developed by the WRE at Woomera and manufactured by the Fairey Aviation Co. of Australasia Pty Limited, at Salisbury, South Australia. In most surface-to-air missile installations, the cameras have been mounted in the nose telemetry bay, although the firing lever must be replaced after each mission. It is estimated that some 30% of the WRECISS can be reused without repairs, and a substantial further proportion can be repaired relatively cheaply. WRECISS data film was Ilford Photostate Route 101 in the form of 0.93 inches discs punched from 35 mm strip, weight 801, diameter 1.5 inches, length 1.25 inches, field of view 186 deg, exposure time 0.3 millisec, effective relative aperture approximately f8. 192 cameras were made in the initial production run. In 1988, this company was merged into Our Defence Industries of Australia. Aerial Survey Fairey Air Surveys Limited was initially headquartered at 24 Bruton Street, London West 1, and later at Reform Road, Maidenhead, with companies across the world. The aircraft and technical officers were based at White Waltham-Berks, along with a special research laboratory. Here the company undertook the design and development of anti-vibration isolators, which were incorporated into camera mountings. Both mapping and geophysical work was undertaken. The UK-based aircraft were sent out to work all over the world. The company undertook aerial surveys for local authorities within the UK and for many overseas governments. Maps were also published under the Fairey Falcon imprint. Over the years the company's names were changed to reflect Fairey ownership and operated into the late 1970s, later becoming Clyde Surveying Services Limited. Fairey Surveys was absorbed into what eventually became Ohmmeter Films. Subsidiary companies were as follows: Fairey Surveys, Livingston, Aerial and Geophysical Survey and Mapping, Aero Surveys, Vancouver International Airport, Canada. This company was equipped to handle processing and mapping. Aircraft include 2 Ansons and 1 P-38. Operated in partnership with Fairchild Aerial Surveys, Inc., Air Survey Company of India, Dum Dum Airport, Calcutta. This branch was fully equipped for processing and mapping. Aircraft include a DC-3 and 3DH Rapides. Air Survey Company of Pakistan, Dunolly Road, Karachi, 2. This was an office only and no aircraft-to-ground equipment were permanently based there. Air Survey Company of Rhodesia, Salisbury, Southern Rhodesia. Fully equipped for processing and mapping. An Anson or a Dove from the UK fleet was available for operations. Other companies were located in Nigeria, Zambia and the Republic of Ireland. Engineering. Heaton Chapel. The Fairey factory at Heaton Chapel, Stockport can trace its roots back to when Crossley Brothers Limited, having had by the end of 1916 supplied large numbers of tenders and aero engines to the Royal Flying Corps, acquired premises at High Lane, Heaton Chapel to expand production. In 1917, following the government's decision to build 3 national aircraft factories was taken, Crossley Motors Limited was formed to manage National Aircraft Factory No. 2 as it was known. The factory continued to produce aircraft until November 1918. After the First World War the site switched to vehicle production. The factory was taken over by Willys Knight and Overland Motors for the manufacture of cars and commercial vehicles and retained by them until 30 November 1934 when it was acquired by Ferry. In 1935 the Fairey Company received a substantial order for Hendon night bombers and established production lines at the Heaton Chapel factory. The production facilities at Heaton Chapel were incorporated as the Stockport Aviation Company Limited on the 11th of February 1936 and the company took a site at Ringway, where test flights were carried out. After the end of aircraft production the Heaton Chapel Works became Fairey Engineering Limited and began production of medium and heavy engineering, including portable bridges for military and emergency services use, notably the medium Girder bridge. Its bridges are in service with the British Army, U.S. Army and many other NATO forces. Fairey Engineering Limited also made nuclear reactor cores and fueling machines for Dungeness B and Trosvenid. The company became Williams Fairey Engineering in 1986, and was then taken over by Kidd, part of the American giant United Technologies Corporation, in 2000, and became now known as WFEL Limited. In 2006 the Manchester Evening News reported that private equity investors Dunedin Capital Partners backed a management buyout of WFEL from UTC, which employs 160 people at its factory on Crossley Road, Heaton Chapel. Land Rover hubs and overdrives in the post-war period. From the late 1950s onwards, Fairey acquired Mayflower Automotive Products, including the factory in Tavistock, Tavistock, Devon, and with the designs of its products, including winch and free-wheeling front hubs for Land Rover vehicles. By the 1970s, Fairey was manufacturing a wide range of winches covering mechanical, hydraulic and electric drive and capstan, drum configurations. Fairey winches formed the bulk of the manufacturer-approved winch options for Land Rover throughout the 1970s and early 1980s. In 1975, Fairey designed and manufactured a mechanical overdrive unit for Land Rovers. Vehicles fitted with the unit carried a badge on the rear saying, "Overdrive by Fairey," with the Fairey logo. This branch of products effectively ceased in the early 1980s when new product development at Land Rover and a trend for manufacturers to build accessories in-house forced Fairey to drop out of the sector. The American company Superwinch bought the Tavistock works and continued making Fairey-designed winches for a few years. The site is now Superwinch's European base and manufacturing facility. Fairey-designed hydraulic winches are still in production, but the large majority of manufacturers of Superwinch-designed electric drum winch. The Fairey Overdrive is still in production in America. Aircraft. Fairey Aircraft, year of first flight in brackets Fairey Humble Baby 1917. Fairey F2 1917. Fairey Companion 1917. Fairey III, large biplane family, starting late 1917. Fairey N9 1917. Fairey Pintail 1920. Fairey Flycatcher biplane fighter 1922. Fairey N4 1923. Fairey 4 1923. Fairey Firefly I 1925. Fairey Fremantle long-range seaplane 1925. Fairey Ferret 1925. Fairey Fox biplane bomber 1925. Fairey long-range monoplane 1928. Fairey Firefly II 1929. Fairey Fleetwing 1929. Fairey Seal biplane torpedo bomber reconnaissance floatplane 1930. Fairey Gordon 1931. Fairey G4 31st General Purpose 1934. Fairey FC-1 commercial airliner. Fairey S9 30th 1934. Fairey Swordfish biplane torpedo bomber 1934. Fairey Phantom single-seat fighter 1935. Fairey Hendon monoplane night bomber 1935. Fairey Battle light bomber 1936. Fairey Sea Fox reconnaissance floatplane 1936. Fairey P. 434th 1937. Fairey Fulmar carrier-borne fighter 1940. Fairey Albacore carrier-borne biplane torpedo bomber 1938. Fairey Barracuda carrier-borne dive bomber torpedo bomber 1940. Fairey Firefly carrier-borne fighter 1941. Fairey Spearfish dive bomber 1945. Fairey FB-1 Gyrodyne 1947. Fairey Jet Gyrodyne 1954. Fairey Primer Trainer 1948. Fairey Gannet carrier-borne ASW aircraft 1949. Fairey Gannet AEW-3 carrier-borne AEW aircraft. Fairey FD-1 experimental delta wing 1950. Fairey FD-2 record-setting delta wing 1954. Fairey ultralight helicopter. Fairey Rotodyne autogyro compound helicopter 1957. Avions Fairey aircraft. Avions Fairey Belfair. Avions Fairey Junior. Tipsy B Tipsy S2. Tipsy Nipper. Subcontract production as well as producing their own designs. Fairey produced other aircraft under subcontract. Short Admiralty Type 827. Sopwith 1.5 Strutter. During the Second World War, Fairey produced nearly 500 Bristol Beaufighters and nearly 600 Handley Page Halifax. Post-war they held subcontracts for production of the de Havilland Vampire, and its successor the de Havilland Venom aircraft engines. Fairey imported 50 Curtiss-built D-12 engines in 1926, renaming them the Fairey Felix, Fairey Felix, Fairey Prince, Fairey Prince 16-cylinder 1,500 horsepower, Fairey Monarch 2x12 cylinders 2,250 horsepower. The P-24 flew in 1939 but was cancelled during the war.